Okay. All right, very good. Let's head over to the game in the NWL Light Division, which we love that we have this. There's definitely many players that are very strong up and coming players in the light division. And I think of these two kids as being two of those. So they have the delightfully confusing names of 2 and 0. So just use the nameplates that we provided for you there. So Gideon going first with this rack with a Q. And again, this is an NWL game, so no play of Feek available, FIQH. I'm pretty sure we'll have to see. Is there any reason you wouldn't play your Q here, Josh?
Yeah, but I would still play it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play it that way though.
Oh, you would play it. You would play. Well, you would play it either vertically or potentially with the eye next to a bonus square.
You got it.
That's
Actually, it was there was a position where I had very similar tiles, like an F and an H or something at a nationals with the QI, and I did play QI with the Q on the star, which is basically never the right play. You don't want to put your vowel next to a double letter score if you don't have to, even if you're playing QI. But I did it against Jason Keller, and then I ended up winning that game, probably because I threw him off with my placement because it's basically a total incorrect placement of QI, and you're basically telling your opponent like, I don't know how to play Scrabble. But I
I'm
ended up winning the game
too.
to my opponent's dismay. But anyways, this is a normal play, QI horizontally. What are you gonna do about it? And toe comes down. Interesting play there.
All
This is
right.
by Emmett, right?
That's right. Yeah, Emmett responds. So I have just issued my first prediction. Oh, it's only a minute long. Until the window of predicting is over. You can predict who you think is going to win. It's still too early to tell.
Thanks
Remember,
for the bits.
Gideon is going first, and Emmett is going second. So the score is 22 for Gideon to 9 for Emmett. Still way too early to call. You can spike the poll with a huge amount of bits if good feeling who's going to win this brotherly battle between these two guys. So yeah, toe is played. That does have the advantage of getting that W off, but really this board was very difficult to navigate after Chi.
Mhm.
With no eye on your rack, you really aren't gonna get very many points there. So I'm not really sure there's too much better. As we see Honk go down, I wonder would that possibly have been better with. Ooh, very nice.
Wow.
Very quickly, Emmett comes
Immediately.
down with Glacier. So I think maybe if you do your prediction, maybe now is
It's a
now
bit
is a
late.
better time. You have slightly more information. um, but yeah, I couldn't have known that.
So the interesting thing is this scores one more point, is it?
To play with
With
Row, RHO.
no, maybe it doesn't. No, I'm miscounting. So it's not interesting at all.
So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, the Glacier with RHO is only 76. Yeah, that's clearly the right play.
Yeah, 3 more points for playing it underneath Chi as opposed to hooking the R for the Greek letter of Rho. So nice play there by Emmett. And it's back over to Gideon, who plays, he plays Fawn,
Mhm.
which seems reasonable. Gets rid of the U and F. Oh, there were a few plays that might have burned through more letters, but that's still a solid play, balancing. Remember, these players are a little bit less experienced than those that we're seeing in the open division, but a lot of raw talent for some of these younger players. So you already have seen a bingo played instantly, just the way that you would see a really experienced player do. So,
And lots of ease here for Gideon.
yeah. Well, I think that was Emmett though. But
I really okay. Zero
it's
is
going to
Emmett.
be very hard to tell
Yeah,
which.
zero is Emmett. I should just look at the stream. My
Yeah,
apologies.
I'm looking at the stream to tell this because they have helpfully made their confusing as possible. And there's Jaw. So Emmett made Z, which looks pretty good. The only downside to a play like Z is if your opponent has an A, you can overlap it for quite a nice score, and that's exactly what happened. Oh, now here is a big test.
Mm.
So here is going to be a test. Well, you know what? It's not that big of a test because let's look at this. Even if you don't see the bingos available here, there is a really, really nice consolation prize, a very findable play that I'm very confident that Gideon will see of just playing op in the upper right corner, um, paralleling both the J and the Z and getting a ton of points. So I'm seeing a couple of options. Oh, something is cutting my voice when I speak.
Yeah, your voice is cutting a bit. I'm not sure why, but
Okay,
all
not
good.
sure.
It's mostly fine.
Okay, so I'm not. It could be on my end. I'm not sure what I'm doing differently, if anything.
Ooh, lipogram too. Yeah, op is totally fine though.
Yeah, there's op. What's the big deal? I mean, it would be probably would play the bingos here if you saw them. Those being proemial or lipogram through the G of glacier or the E of lender. But op scores a ton of points. And Emmett answers it
Immediately,
immediately
yeah.
with just job up there.
That might be the right play.
I think it's probably pretty good. Oh man, and another rack here where
Ooh.
there is a bingo available, but I think it might be. This could be one of those that you learn years into your Scrabble career.
Mhm.
Um, so this one though, so the bingo manurial, this one definitely much bigger gap between the bingo available and the next closest play. So you can see Amu going down. That's a play that leaves a solid group of letters left over for Gideon, including IN to maybe hit the G of Glacier. But obviously, manurial, I mean, that's a tough find, but definitely a bigger gap between that and Amu than Op and Proemiel.
Absolutely. And now the blank was drawn in a one tile play. You don't
Yeah,
see that too often. I feel
nice.
like you do see that too often actually. You don't see it often, but I feel like it happens too often. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's probably some kind of a cognitive thing
Mhm.
where when it happens, it just etches itself in our minds
Totally
because it
is.
feels so notable. And then when it doesn't happen, it just goes in, in and out. It doesn't make much of a ripple. 14 Domino also cheered 100 bits 5 minutes ago. Thank you, Cesar. He's probably playing his game right
Yeah,
now.
I thanked him.
Oh,
So
did you? Okay, I'm sorry. I somehow didn't pick up on that.
no, that's why there's two of us.
That's,
Um,
thank you.
okay, so the same leave again. Gideon's trying again with the same AILNR leave. He's really looking to hit that G in Glacier, I think, with an ING word. So he plays HA, um, and we'll see. We'll see what he drew. Right now, the X is on Emmett's rack. It's very nice to have the X in this position. And yeah, XI comes down. Great play. All right. Still no bingo, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. This is gonna get trickier. The problem here is, again, not to continue to plug my YouTube, but I did a video on the G recently where you just have a tendency with the G to draw a lot of video. Thanks, Josh. I saw you link it, and I said videos. You draw a lot of bingos that don't fit on the board, right? So basically, here you have to maybe, if Gideon can get out of the mindset of keeping ing, the best chance for him is probably to try to draw a bingo ending in R with row, right? That's a much better bet for him. If he can pick one of the 7 E's remaining, his chance of hitting that lane is much better than anything he will get with an ing word on this board, right? I think that's how I'm seeing it. I hesitate to ask Josh anything G related, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that was a decent spot to play in where he played Lar. Very dangerous play, by the way. Takes a lot of hooks that go onto that triple, but I think playing Grr in the same spot, the weird automatopoeic word of GRR would have done a bit better there. But as we can see, the Lar hooks were not used, and Mock came down for Emmett there, keeping the blank again. So they're both really going for that bingo here.
All right,
RING was playing,
yeah.
and yeah, we have the bingo here, and we'll see if he sees it.
So yeah, there's a couple nuances here. First is you have to see raining, REIGNING, which I feel like among words ending in ing, that might be sort of
There you
ironically
go.
more difficult to find, but sure enough, Gideon has found it.
And we're
So
gonna
this is a
probably
nice.
see
Sorry, go ahead.
we're gonna probably see a comeback bingo here, if I'm not mistaken. We'll
I
see.
would think so, yeah. I guess the question is, will we eventually see anything hooking Laurie down in that corner? I feel like that could. I mean, I don't think we're going to see that right now. But at some point, I could easily imagine seeing a play come down there in a damaging way that might decide the game if it's pretty close. Uh,
Yeah, it could very well. I mean, the play of Mock, it did two interesting things. It kind of blocked the hooks on Lar, but not quite. As we can see, LARI is still available, albeit it's kind of difficult to
it's
make a
hard,
play
yeah.
there.
The C there is sort of unappealing, I guess. It's worth noting. Yeah, you're right.
But the other thing is that that A column, the furthest column to the left, there might be some big plays that come down there making AMA or OMA.
Very good
Albeit
point.
again, it's not that likely that those plays will just happen. But after a while, the more turns go by, the more likely it is. And I was gonna say ardently is a normal word that I feel like Emmett would be able to find. It was a beautiful find making the blank a Y. He didn't
Very
even take
nice.
that long there. I was expecting he would take even longer, but I'm sure he just sees ardently. He's like, "Oh, it looks fine. That looks like a good play." So great find by Emmett
Yep.
there.
That is and ardently the highest scoring bingo available in that position. So that was a very, very nice job. Both brothers playing nice and quickly. And again, if you are just joining us, this is a matchup between, see the screen names, 0 and 2. And Ploy goes down for Gideon. And I think that was the right play too. It kept
Mhm.
2 U's. We don't love keeping 2 U's on our rack at any time, but he just scored 39 points. And that sweetens the pot much, enough that you're gonna play that, even keeping 2 U's behind.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not great to keep the 2 U's. You might have to exchange next turn, but now the board is not super easy to score on this board. We were mentioning the AMA and the OMA hooks, so you could get a six-letter word there potentially,
Yeah,
um, but it's really hard.
not with this
Um,
rack yet. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a 6 letter word ending in O yet. And there's also doesn't look like there's a great play making Laurie here. So that C in that second position, you really need, really, for me, I feel like, I guess S is maybe required, but even then, SCI is not, that doesn't feel like it's that terrifying. I feel like something like acid is probably the likeliest thing to go down in that spot.
oh,
Um,
and this is an interesting spot. So OY comes down. Both brothers are keeping duplicate vowels on their rack, and that just goes to show that this board
wow.
isn't really great. The options that you can use to score there, they might not leave you with the best of tiles. And I was gonna say, is Gideon gonna play dugout here? It
Ooh,
is very dangerous to put that D out there, and we might see. Okay, wow! Immediately retiring comes down. I was gonna
nice
say we
play.
might see something like Inditer with a C, um, but that's retiring scores just as much.
Yeah, that's nice. So that's another bingo, well spotted. I will say that actually there was a bingo of citrines there from the C,
Ooh.
which whether or not that's the best play here, I'm not sure because it has some drawbacks. It scores a few more points, but it makes a much easier bingo line to play on top of 7 letter word. Retiring, on the other hand, forces Gideon, if he wants to bingo to any of those letters, the letters must be the last letter in the word.
And we
Um,
talk about that G again. Okay,
mhm.
D bag comes down really quickly. We talk about that G again. There was no no N left in the bag, so the ing words would not happen. They would
Yep.
not materialize. So retiring is oddly defensive, despite it opening all those letters to play through.
True. Yeah, that G, as Josh says, really the sting taken way out of that just because the ends are gone. Really, the only thing worth worrying about there is probably the R of retiring. If you were to
Mhm.
hit something ending in ER, IER, um, that's it.
And
So this,
even then, the particular aspect of this game is that retiring left 7 tiles in the bag exactly, and it went up by 90 points. So it doesn't even seem that plausible that there's even a way to win with a bingo right after retiring. I think even if Emmett had a bingo on the rack of D bag, it might be okay to pass it up and just make sure that you're not stuck with 7 tiles in an endgame where your opponent's going first.
it's a very good point. And there is that issue of timing when it gets closer to the end of the game. You have to be thinking about the number of tiles left in the bag and how that number sets you up for the end game. There's a lot of things that we have to consider as Scrabble players when we get that close to the end of the game. You want to consider how many tiles will be left in the bag if my opponent bingos. And you need to be very careful that if you are in a situation where you're up by 70 or 80 points, sometimes you desperately do not want that number to be 0 tiles left in the bag because then your opponent's final play of a bingo will end the game. That's a great common way, a way that I've lost many a game in my career is just not paying enough attention to how many tiles in the bag, playing too many of my own tiles. My opponent then bingos and collects extra points from my rack. Ooh, look at
What
this.
a play. That's a great play.
That is,
Tell us why that's a great play. I think, yeah.
yeah, so that is a really impressive idea there of just SI, which has a wonderful. So if even if there had been a threat to that G, um, it still would have played with ing, but there are no ends left. So instead, you're just basically addressing that R as really the scariest threat left on the board. It really doesn't matter to Emmett whether he uses S or keeps it here. Typically, you would never spend an S in that type of situation. But in this one, it is completely warranted because it has such a strong blocking effect. Um,
And
and
even more specifically, all 4 S's remained unplayed until that last turn. So the
ooh,
S is really just not that good of a tile anymore. Like he
yeah,
had another S. There were 2 other S's he could draw. Like you don't actually want to have 4 S's.
yeah.
As weird as that sounds, like
You can,
that
yeah.
might be
Too much of
trouble.
too much of a good thing is absolutely possible. And
And
really,
that's
the S does derive a huge portion of its value from how easy it is to hook onto other words, right? And on this
Mhm.
board, if you just look around and try to imagine where would that S go that gets you a ton of points or that would allow you to get a bingo down, and there's nowhere, right? There isn't any good place. Ooh, interesting idea. So
Good play, good
Gideon
play.
making a last ditch attempt to set up a line, a sevens line that he can play. Maybe he's also trying to hit something with the Laurie spot, but I don't know about that. But either way, Gideon fishes an E and draws a V to pair with his F. So that's going to do it for him in this game, barring something completely nuts. Um,
Yeah, it also the play of SI, bringing us back to that play, it showcases the defensive value that the S has. Not
mm.
only is the S a great tile to score points with, to hook words with, hooking those words makes it really easy for you to dictate the flow of the board. Now, in this case, you're just making 2 letter words, but the S can be used defensively, and we see it right there.
So headed towards the end of the game, and it would have had a window of predictions, but wow, somebody put a pretty big bet on Gideon, and of course it's going to be Emmett that comes away with the win in the Brosowsky. Not, I am sure. It's asking me, am I sure this is the right outcome? Yes, I am. Um, pretty well played game there, I have to say. You wouldn't have known necessarily that was in the light division. Nicely done to Emmett for coming up with some nice plays
Ardently,
to
yeah.
win. Yeah,
Ardently was a
firing.
great find.
Okay, I'm getting word my mic is bad. I literally have not changed anything about it. So I'll just use push to talk, I guess. Second. But yeah, congrats, Emmett. I see him in the chat. So you guys got your brother's battle.